Welcome to EQBloom. Today we're diving into one of the most pressing and misunderstood phenomena in modern neuroscience, the rising rates of ADHD. Is this spike in attention-related disorders a product of our environment, pollutants, screens, and sleep debt, or are we simply living in a society that punishes traits once useful for survival? In this video, we'll explore both hypotheses, environmental neurotoxicity and evolutionary mismatch, and what they reveal about the way our brains are wired and misfired. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by persistent patterns of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity, but that's a textbook definition. Neurologically, ADHD involves dysfunction in brain regions like the prefrontal cortex, which governs executive function, and the basal ganglia, linked to motor control and habit formation. But the key player here, dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that underlies motivation, reward, and attention regulation. In ADHD, dopamine pathways are hypoactive, meaning the brain struggles to maintain focus unless something is highly stimulating or novel. Over the past 30 years, diagnoses have surged, particularly in children. Some call it overdiagnosis, others see it as long overdue recognition. But what's undeniable is that more kids than ever are struggling to focus, and we need to ask why. So why the dramatic rise in ADHD diagnosis? Part of the answer lies in diagnostic expansion. The DSM, our psychiatric diagnostic manual, broadened its criteria in the 1990s and early 2000s. What was once seen as troublesome is now a clinical condition. Schools have also become gatekeepers. Teachers are often the first to raise red flags, and with standardized testing pressure and strict behavioral expectations, even mild distractibility is scrutinized. Then there's a digital revolution. Children now spend 7+ hours a day on screens, many of them fast-paced, hyper-stimulating, and dopamine draining. This trains the brain to crave novelty and struggle with boredom, hallmarks of ADHD. Finally, we must acknowledge the debate around diagnostic bias. Are we pathologizing normal behavior in boys? Are we underdiagnosing girls? This rise isn't due to one factor, but a constellation of societal and biological forces converging. Let's start with the hypothesis 1, environmental neurotoxicity. Modern children are exposed to a cocktail of neurobiological stressors that didn't exist 100 years ago. For example, endocrine disrupting chemicals like BPA and phthalates in plastics, artificial food dyes and preservatives, sleep deprivation which alters prefrontal activity and emotional regulation, excessive screen time, which overstimulates the visual cortex and floods the reward system. Emerging research suggests that these exposures increase neuroinflammation and oxidative stress, damaging the dopamine system. We also see breakdowns in the blood-brain barrier, allowing immune molecules to enter brain tissue, a key factor in neurodevelopment disruption. And let's not forget the gut-brain axis. Poor diet and chronic stress alter the microbiome, which in turn affects neurochemistry. ADHD in this model isn't just a brain problem, it's a whole body inflammation issue. Now let's consider hypothesis 2, evolutionary mismatch. In ancestral environments, hunter-gatherer tribes, traits like quick reactivity, novelty-seeking, and hypervigilance were adaptive. If you could rapidly switch attention or hyperfocus on moving prey, you were more likely to survive. Modern society, however, favors the opposite. We ask 7-year-olds to be still, avoid movement, and suppress curiosity, expectations that may conflict with genetic blueprints. Studies have identified DRD4, 7R allele, a variant of the dopamine receptor gene more common in those with ADHD. Intriguingly, it's also prevalent in populations with nomadic or migratory ancestry. Coincidence? Possibly not. This mismatch hypothesis suggests that ADHD is not a dysfunction, but a misfit between our brains and our current environments. Instead of blaming the brain, we must ask, are we forcing square pegs into round holes? Regardless of cause, whether environmental, evolutionary, or both, ADHD is real, measurable, and often life-altering. But here's the key. Blame is unhelpful, context is essential. Management is possible through multiple channels. Behavioral therapy helps develop executive skills and impulse control. Mindfulness strengthens attention and emotional regulation. Medication like stimulants can boost dopamine availability. Lifestyle interventions, quality sleep, movement, and nutrition can dramatically improve function. These aren't cures, but they are tools that empower individuals to reclaim agency over attention. And equally important, how we talk about ADHD matters. Compassionate, strength-based framing helps reduce stigma and increase support. ADHD is not a defect, it's a dialogue between biology, environment, and history. It speaks to how our brains evolved and how our world has changed, and it reminds us that attention is a finite, fragile resource, not a moral failing. When we treat attention as sacred, not just in ourselves, but in our children, we open the door to more understanding, less judgment, and better outcomes. So before we pathologize distraction, ask, is this brain malfunction or society failing to adapt? Subscribe to EQBloom for more science that reconnects you to know how your brain really works. Your attention matters, let's use it wisely.